Sophie wasted her head like a squirrel. You two really are as nuts as Sophie promised, the king flashed. The second we return, you'll be thrown back into the dungeons. His eyes shot too hot. You two, since you forged for these fruit flies. In the meantime, you three will be locked here during the blessing. The smell of you alone is good reason to have you out of sight. Ryan glowered too at Sophie, daring her to protest, but she tried her best to look untroubled. Then she turned and stared out the window, her eyes welling. Every time she thought she had a way out, she found the path sealed off, the maze closing in. In the glass, she could see Ryan watching her in her reflection as her tears slipped down her cheek. She didn't bother hiding it. It didn't matter. There was no plan now. She was back where she had started. The boys would return to jail. The blessing would continue. Tetris would die. Flying ghosts or not. The boys in the carriage were subdued the rest of the way, the king included. Sophie could see Ryan's lips pressed together, his eyes fixed on the Empress Tower's cart, which had never been retrieved from under his boots. Clearly, his brother was still on his mind. Meanwhile, Hot kept glancing at Sophie, but she ignored him, while William and Borden quietly reordered their carts. For a moment, it was so silent in the carriage that Sophie could hear the eel sniffling around on Hot's skin. Sophie gazed at the Empress, smiling so emptily from under the king's boots, a pawn in someone else's game. That's me, Sophie thought, a pawn at a dead end. What would Agatha do? Agatha would find a way to fight back, even from a dead end. Agatha would never be a pawn. Sophie's heart stirred, thinking of her best friend. How long until Kay and his men gets to school? Without Lady Lasso or Delphi protecting the towers, surely they'll find their way in. Plus, Agatha had already escaped Ryan's clutches once. Twice was asking too much, even for a girl who always seemed to land on her feet like a cat. Speaking of which, where was Reaper? The last she had seen of Agatha's hideous pet was in the castle before the battle against the snake. Sophie's toes curled tighter around the file hidden in her shoe. If she could only be alone, she could see her quest map and use if Agatha was safe or if Ryan's men had apprehended her. A surging buzz drew her out of her head, and Sophie flinched, knowing she was about to glimpse the clouds for the blessing. Ironic, of course, since she had spent her whole life combating Finn, but now felt allergic to all of it, eager to return to the castle. Alone in her bathtub, she could pretend this was a bad dream, that this wedding could never happen, that this lie would be found out. But it was outside the castle, in the presence of the people, that she knew she was wrong. because people can make a lie real, the same way they make fairy tales real, by believing in them, by passing them on, by claiming them as their own. That's why people needed the snowman to guide them, because fairy tales were powerful things. Sophie knew this from experience. Try too hard to raise your own instead of letting the pen write it, and bad things happen. That was the truth. But it's easy to stop believing the truth. It's as easy as deciding to believe in a man over a pen. Thunder trembled outside, and Sophie peeked through the window as thin black clouds unfurled like tentacles over the message in the sky about Agatha's capture. For a brief moment, she perked up, wondering if the clouds were due to more than just the weather. But then the carriage veered sharply, and now the people came into view. The streets were crammed, 5 bodies deep, manic and unruly. A beautiful nymph with mint green skin patterned with silver stars waved a sign. Ask me my story, King Lion, while a hideous, furry creature held his own. Me mum's a cat, me that's a troll. Want me tell? Come down me ho. There was even a gnome with a thick mustache and hunking coat, clearly trying to disguise himself. Pick me, Pinku of Glomland. I can't put my address because it's a secret. Everywhere Sophie looked, ordinary citizens clamored for lion's mane to tell their tales, as if the story no longer mattered, replaced by a pen that finally cared about them. Ryan's promise had come true. A new pen had become the wood's guiding light. No longer could Sophie tell who was good and who was evil like she used to. Before now, the tribes had stayed apart, identifiable not just by dress and decorum, but also by their loving for one another. That's why the two sides had worshipped the Stonian, a pen that only told the tales of an elite field, but also made the rest of the woods invested in the outcome, because it kept score of who was winning and who was losing, because it kept the two sides battling for glory. That is, until Ryan had united them with a new pen.